Welcome back to Kinesthetic Knowledge on Record. I'm your host, Isha, and today we will be discussing some important issues on fascia and its connection to muscles. In today's session, we will be looking at a very interesting application of fascia and then discussing how it is implicated in muscle strength and stability. So let's get started. So fascia is often referred to as the body's forgotten organ, which is a dense connective tissue that surrounds and supports everything in our body, from the muscles and organs to the bones and nerves. It plays a vital role in maintaining muscle strength, integrity, stability, and even pain in several ways. In order to explore this connection, we have on call an expert in the topic, Aya. So, hi, Aya. Thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you so much, Isha. I'm glad to be here.
That's amazing. So let's get started. So, yeah, recent research suggests that fascia is actually 6 times more important to our nervous system than the muscles themselves. Can you kind of elaborate on this heightened sensitivity?
Yes, so I read this in a book about fascia and sports, and I was also surprised about that. So, what it said is that the neurological aspect of our bodily function reveals a fascinating emphasis on the facial matrix, which is a network that's about 6 times more sensationally significant to our nervous system than the muscles themselves. The heightened sensitivity is made possible by multiple stretch receptors within each muscle spindle, which is capable of detecting a range of stimuli from stretch and vibration to pressure and even pain. Surprisingly, though, the brain doesn't map individual muscles within its sensory or motor cortex. Instead, it kind of orchestrates movement through the coordination of neuromotor units, which is basically units that contains 10 to 100 muscle cells within a muscle itself.
That's incredible. It seems like our brains don't actually control individual muscles, but rather groups, which are neuromotor units, as you just mentioned. I was wondering, how does this holistic approach to movement actually influence our understanding of the body?
So, this holistic approach to movement underscores the complexity and kind of challenges previous assumptions about our bodies, which is like, oh, one muscle works independently of other like structures. But our bodies are like intricate webs of fascia, muscles, and bones that are all working together. So, understanding movement in this context is aided by something called a biotranssegrity model. Have you heard about this before?
No, I haven't. That's the first time I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because it illustrates how our bodies are held together in a neuromyofacial web in some sort, which kind of accommodate movement as a self-adjusting whole. So this intricate web of tissues kind of form outside or forms the outer tensional networks that pulls in on the skeleton, maintaining its erect posture and proper alignment. So, what I understand from that is you have the skeleton and it kind of pushes outward, and then your fascia pushes inward to kind of have this balance in your body.
That's actually so interesting. We often underestimate the role that fascia plays, and it seems to be a key to our body's resilience. Can you maybe further elaborate on how it helps us to adapt to stress and strain in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So, resilience is a key factor in our biomechanical reality. Sorry. So, stemming from the interplay of various factors contributing to kind of a rapid distribution of strain and the differentiated response of our organism as a whole. So, consider the fiber directions within the musculature and collagen fibers in a connective tissue. This kind of reveals clear fiber lines that adapt to strains. These lines, whether they're diagonal or longitudinal, can be correlated with movement patterns. This enhances our understanding of the biomechanics or movement of our body. It is also important to note that all bodily motions are facilitated by something called myofascial chains that extend throughout the entire body.
Oh, that's so interesting. And this would have implications for not only movement, but also treatment, correct?
Yes, exactly. Because we have to understand this interconnectedness. This is crucial, especially in cases of muscle weakness, where consideration of the entire myofascial chain is imperative for effective treatment. So, the concept of myofascial chains actually extend beyond physiology. We find it applied in various disciplines, from physiotherapy to yoga, even meditation. So, understanding fascia can enhance the benefits of these practices.
So fascia seems to be kind of like a communication networks within our bodies. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So intermuscular myofascial force transmissions involve kind of this tension transfer between neighboring muscle districts. And so extramuscular myofascial force specifically involves tension transfer to non-muscular structures. You have an intricate web of tension distributions, which is pivotal in terms of mechanisms to maintain this bodily tension and balance. So, for instance, if you imagine someone in a plank position, everything is held in tension to be able to give you this balanced position against gravity.
And then there's even evidence that stretching one part of the body can actually improve range of motion in a completely another part of body. And I think this really does a good job of kind of highlighting the interconnectedness of the myofascial system, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I was surprised when I read about this because it seems like when you're stretching your lower limb, that affects the range of motion in your cervical tract. So that kind of validates the whole existence of myofascial lines across your body. And so it's a powerful reminder of how truly connected everything in our bodies are.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. So I wanted to kind of shift gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you what factors actually influence how our fascia in particular functions.
So, some interesting research I found was hydration, which I did not expect. It seems like hydration, fluids, mechanical stiffness kind of significantly influence myofascial tension. So, our body's adaptability and response to stress kind of comes from a lot of, I would say, biochemistry, ions, like electrolytes, all of that. So it's quite interesting to see that, yeah, hydration is not just important for your skin, but also for your fascia. So make sure you're hydrated.
Yeah, it's amazing how much power water actually has. And that completely makes sense. Thank you. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about myofascial pain. That's a common issue. Can you maybe explain what it is and the challenges it presents?
Yeah, it's a very important part of research, I think. And it's unfortunate that whenever I come across research articles that says we have limited understanding of a lot of things when it comes to myofascial pain or myofascial pain syndrome. So basically, the transmission of mechanical tension, whether it's active or passive, plays a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of our body structure without damaging or deforming it. But when we look at myofascial pain, it's characterized by pain associated with inflammation or irritation of this myofascial network. This presents a unique challenge in clinical practice. What happens is that clinicians find something called trigger points. It's like taut bands in your body. And so those could be active, those could be latent, and they contribute to localized or referred pain patterns. They often kind of necessitate a comprehensive approach to treatment because we're talking about the body as a whole. So, one part that's painful because of those trigger points can diffuse to other places as well in your body.
That makes sense. And I really like your point on the limited research. I think that's a prevalent issue in a lot of MSK related research, and fascia in particular is extremely understudied. One of so in my own research, one of the things that I came across was myofascial pain syndrome, which you kind of touched upon, or what's known as MPS. I was wondering, is there a difference between MPS and fibromyalgia?
Yeah, I also was interested in seeing the differences because I also heard about fibromyalgia or myalgia. So MPS is distinguished as regional pain syndrome. This is contrasted with the generalized nature of fibromyalgia or fibromyalgia. So despite initially being described as a single muscle syndrome, MPS can manifest in various regions, with trigger points potentially spreading through axial kinetic chains. So central sensitization is a neuroplasticity phenomenon, and it kind of plays a crucial role in both MPS and fibromyalgia. So what happens is that it causes changes in the central nervous system, because then it leads to tenderness and referred pain and transition from acute to chronic pain. Central sensitizations also may explain widespread tenderness or generalized hypersensitivity and biomechanical changes like elevated substance P, which is seen in fibromyalgia. So it's interesting how changes or issues with your MPS, or basically your fascia, can cause your pain to shift and make it more centralized in your system.
Yeah, that clears up a lot of misunderstanding. Thank you, Aya. It seems to be that what I'm gathering from this whole talk is that understanding fascia is a key player to treating various pain and muscle conditions. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, you're correct, Isha. In essence, understanding the intricate interplay between muscles, fascia, and the central nervous system is essential for effective treatment and management of conditions like MPS or myofascial pain syndrome. And that's important because you want to promote holistic well being. So, when you have weakness in one muscle, clinicians need to look at your myofascial chain as a whole and kind of evaluate it from there to improve your quality of life.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, and that's something really good to leave with. Thank you, Aya, for being on this podcast. This has been a fascinating exploration of the facial network.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Isha.
Building on Aya's fantastic explanation of the biotensegrity model, where our bodies mirror architectural structures, we can see how this concept influences movement. It's like an interconnected web of forces that govern everything from dancing to sports. Today, let's zoom in on how fascia impacts muscle stability and weakness. Tight or tense fascia has the ability to disrupt force transmission. Imagine a kinked garden hose. What will happen to its water pressure? Obviously, it will get dispersed and less water will reach the end. Similarly, think of the force transmitted by the muscles, which are the water in our case, and then the ends as our bones. With tight fascia, less force reaches the bones for movement, ultimately leading to weaker contractions. It's important to consider the impact of fascial lines on efficient force transmission. Disruption of these lines are like tangled suspension bridge cables. They're unable to bear the intended weight, which is why our muscle forces don't get transmitted effectively. In our discussion with Aya, we discussed how myofascial pain comes to be and how tightness in fascia can put constant strain on the muscles. This isn't a one-trick pony. Studies have demonstrated a multitude of ways this occurs. Ischemic compression occurs when tight fascia squeezes blood vessels, reducing oxygen and nutrient delivery, causing muscle fatigue and pain. Additionally, when a muscle fiber is constantly under tension, it can develop localized areas of hypercontractility known as trigger points, which we kind of discussed earlier. And these trigger points can actually cause referred pain elsewhere. Tight fascia can even irritate the pain receptors within itself, contributing to overall muscle discomfort. Now, imagine trying to clench your fist with a tight rubber band around your fingers. You're going to find that there's going to be limited movement and reduced power. That's exactly what happens when tight fascia restricts muscle fibers' ability to lengthen and shorten through their full range of motion. As we kind of mentioned earlier, tightness in one facial area can also directly restrict muscles in seemingly unrelated areas. So imagine tight lower back fascia, for example. That can restrict hamstring length, limiting knee extension and overall leg power, leading to weakness in activities such as squats and lunges that require that full range of motion. So you can see how physically fascia can limit the muscle's movement and therefore overall force transmission. And another concept that's really important is proprioception. We've covered proprioception before, so I would suggest you check out the videos on proprioception, but here's the connection in this case. So tight or tense fascia can actually physically compress proprioceptive receptors, leading to a loss of neuromuscular control and hindering the ability to detect and transmit accurate information about joint movement and position. Imagine trying to read a message that is scrawled on a wrinkled paper. That distorted message becomes difficult to interpret. This throws off the brain's ability to precisely control muscle activation, leading to incoordination and wasted energy. Think about trying to walk on an uneven terrain blindfolded. Your muscles will struggle to respond effectively, leading to weakness and instability. Finally, the brain also relies on proprioceptive feedback to determine how many muscle fibers need to be activated for a specific movement. Altered proprioception from tight fascia can actually lead to under-recruitment of muscle fibers, resulting in less force generated despite the effort that's being made by our muscles. So, what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is how fascia impacts muscle function and how we can take steps to improve facial health and optimize our movement potential. So if you were going to take away some lessons from this podcast, it would be that fascia is an unsung hero in the body, playing a critical role in muscle function and movement. In this session, we've explored how fascia integrates itself to make up the myofascial system and how tight fascia, or tense fascia in particular, can disrupt force transmission, limiting range of motion, and even confusing our proprioceptive system. This can all lead to muscle weakness, instability, and pain. The good news is that we are not powerless. By incorporating strategies like stretching, self-massages, and staying hydrated, we can promote healthy fascia and create an environment where our muscles can thrive. So next time you hit the gym or step out onto the dance floor, remember fascia. By keeping it healthy, you'll be optimizing your movement potential and taking a step towards a stronger, more stable you. Thank you to our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Kinesthetic Knowledge. On record, tune in next time and take care.